Attorney General Josh Shapiro, Congressman Matt Cartwright, and Senator Bob Casey.
To President Joe Biden. It's great to welcome him home, and I really want to say thank you to him, especially for his commitment to building safer communities here in Pennsylvania and all across the nation. It's one of the things that makes me proudest of seeing him as one of our native sons, because he knows that, we all have children. Our children, they deserve safety in their schools, safety in our homes, and our communities. We all deserve safety. When we go to the grocery store, we deserve safety. When we go to a movie theater, when we go to the mall, we go to places of worship, so on and so on and so forth. In this day and age, when our society has come so far and achieved so much, it is absolutely, positively ridiculous that so many of our so-called leaders just throw up their hands when it comes to the problem of violence. Yeah, it is tough. Get over it. Let's do something about it. For President Biden, he is doing something about it. He understands that there is really no problem that we cannot solve if we work together. Entrenched violence is tough, especially gun violence, but we have to start to figure out how we're going to solve the issue. Enforcement officers so that they have better information to know what they're dealing with. I've also signed bills into law to make our Commonwealth's justice system fairer, taken action to improve access to mental health treatment in Pennsylvania, required insurers to provide mental health equity with physical health. I'm going on and on. These are things that we have not done enough. We need to do more, which is why President Biden's Safer America plan is so important. It is the next step for us. It's something that actually can give us all some hope that we are moving at least in the right direction to make sure that gun violence is less of a problem. What his plan does, it calls for needed investments in crime prevention. It calls for changes to build a fair justice system. It calls for common sense steps to keep guns out of dangerous hands. The plan also drives investments down into the state, which I'm grateful, and to local areas for them to use that money in ways that they see fit. This is a plan that takes advantage of the strengths of every partner at every level. It's innovative, it's built for success. So President Biden, you're going to hear from him in just a minute. That's why we're all here. I want to thank him for his leadership. I want to thank him for his vision, because this is really important. Now it is my great pleasure to turn this over to Pennsylvania's Attorney General, my friend Josh Shapiro.
It's good to be with all of you here at Wilkes University. Thank you, I love you back. It's good to be with all of you here, to see your faces and to have this important conversation about public safety right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in NEPA, as we like to call ourselves. I know as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it takes great collaboration and commitment through the community and law enforcement, coming together, trusting one another, working together to combat crime. Our community, working together with Governor Wolf, we tried to shut down that close gun loophole, but then we were sued by the gun lobby. We didn't go away, we kept pushing forward. And now, because we partnered with the Biden administration, the ghost gun loophole in the United States of America is closed. to bring up one of your own, our Congressman, Congressman Matt Cartwright.
Anybody like Josh Shapiro here? Here's a man who has dedicated himself to law enforcement, and we appreciate that. And you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I think it is the top responsibility of elected officials to ensure public safety. We all believe it here, all of us here on the stage and all of you listening. You know that public safety is so important. And I can't tell you how much time I spend in our nation's capital bragging about our police in northeastern Pennsylvania. We don't seem to have the problems that we see in other places in the country. You know why? Our police are fantastic. They understand community policing. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, because it will help us get to a safer America. We need to focus on mental health problems, protecting against domestic violence, closing loopholes that can allow criminals unchecked access to firearms and ammunition. We have to make schools safer and get ahead of problems that are on track to end up as a shooting and stop that shooting from ever happening. Pennsylvania, Senator Bob Casey.
We're honored by the presence of Governor Wolf, Attorney General Shapiro, and Congressman Cartwright. Let's give them another round of applause for their leadership. I want to thank each of you for being here today to have this important discussion, as the Attorney General said. We're grateful to Wilkes University, showing my age, Mr. President. President Kahn, thank you for having us back here and rescheduling this after we had to postpone it from before, earlier this year. But we're grateful for your presence here today. And I also want to extend that gratitude to the President of the United States, Joe Biden. Let's give him a round of applause so he can hear it. Didn't have the money to do it until this bill came along. It also addresses the dating partner loophole, so that women across the country are threatened by a dating partner. Making progress on that, still more to do on that issue as well. Funding community violence intervention programs, cracking down on gun trafficking, on and on and on. And guess what? Almost $11 billion, 10.8 to be exact, $10.8 billion for mental health. That has never happened in Washington in my lifetime. Never. Again, they said it couldn't be done. President Joe Biden has shown with his leadership that we can take on any tough problem. Not solve it in one bill, not solve it with one action, but make good progress, as Americans always do.
Took office just 2 years ago, and that's Wilkes-Barre Mayor George Brown.
I don't think I can, but I'm going to try. Folks, go ahead, have a seat, please. Yes, you're here today, and Joe Biden is here today. And Joe Biden is here for us because he cares about Wilkes-Barre, Luzerne County, and all the residents in the state of Pennsylvania. As mayor, on behalf of the
first met President Biden in his hometown of Scranton last October. And I said, Mr. President, please come to Wilkes-Barre. We have a beautiful city. And guess what? He kept his promise. He's here today. Now by purchasing a gunshot detection technology throughout the city of Wilkes-Barre. This is all done as a result of President Biden's efforts. We welcome the President's initiatives through the Safer America Plan. We will promote a safer community by ensuring that our police department always has the most updated equipment and training. In closing, I'm appreciative of President Biden's visit to Wilkes-Barre today, and even more so, the long-lasting benefits of the American Rescue Plan and the path towards a safer Wilkes-Barre through his Safer America Plan. Now, it's my honor to introduce to you President Joe Biden.
Scranton's cases to entry. We got in the same neighborhood in Greenridge, not far from two of the best little candy shops in the whole country. And I just wanted to they can't deny me, that's why I wanted to come up here. By the way, this guy has more integrity in his little finger than most people have in their whole body. That's why I love working. Senators. And your congressman, Matt Cartwright, is the real reason I'm here. I'm the Cartwright country. He knows how to deliver this district, which is so close to my heart. Look, I especially want to thank all the members of law enforcement who are here. Many of them are behind me. For always being there for us. We should always be there for them. By the way, also, that I need badly, you don't really appreciate till you need them, is the firefighters. The firefighters have been with me my whole career, and let me tell you something. There's an old expression, God made man and then he made a few firefighters. Because you got to be crazy to be a firefighter. By the way, please sit down. I'm sorry. Please sit down. Thank you. Well, look, when I ran for president, I said I looked at the world the way I looked at it growing up in Scranton. That wasn't hyperbole. I meant that. What families wanted was in Scranton when I was growing up, my mom and dad and my grandpa, was the basic as it is today. The decent, both your members of Congress voted for, is based on a simple notion. When it comes to public safety in this nation, the answer is not defund the police, it's fund the police. We expect them to do everything. We expect them to protect us, to be psychologists, to be sociologists. We expect you to do everything. I'm not joking. Everything. You realize more police officers are killed dealing with domestic violence than anything else? You realize that? Point is, we have so much of it. So much of it. I've not met a cop who likes a bad cop. There's bad in everything. There's lousy senators, there's lousy presidents, there's lousy doctors, there's lousy lawyers. No, I'm serious. But I don't know any police officer that feels good about the fact that they may be a lousy cop. I'm tired of not giving the kind of help they need. Folks, look, we're in a situation in this country where we have to give them additional resources they need to get their job done. Matt gets it, Matt Cartwright. This is not hyperbole. Matt's the chair of the powerful subcommittee that controls the funding for public safety. He knows what it means investing in effective and accountable community policing that builds public trust and strengthens public safety. I'm old enough to remember when cops used to walk the beat in Wilmington and in Scranton because they knew everybody. They knew the kid. They knew if someone was trouble. They knew whose house to go and knock on the door and say, "Mom, your son just did." I'm not being facetious. They knew the neighborhoods. As part of the American Rescue Plan I signed into law last year, which they voted for, we set aside $350 billion, with a B, $billion for state and local governments all across America, and urge them to use it like your governor did to make communities safer. Here in Pennsylvania, Governor Wolf is using $250 million of that money to reduce crime and violence across this state. Trust the community. We slipped away from that. We have a hell of a lot fewer cops today than we did when I wrote that initial crime bill. But now we got to get back to it. By the way, I'm not making a case that there aren't bad cops. There's some really lousy cops. There's some really lousy doctors. There's really lousy lawyers. I mean it. But here's the point. As we've seen too often, public trust is frayed, it's broken, and it undermines public safety when it gets frayed. It literally undermines safety. Families across the country have to ask, why in this nation, for example, so many black Americans wake up knowing they could lose their lives just by living their lives? You come from neighborhoods like I come from, down in Delaware, if you have a 16 or 17-year-old son and you get your driver's license, sit down and say, look, if you get stopped, put your hands on the wheel, don't do anything. That's, I'm being serious. I'm being serious. But here's the point. Simply jogging, sleeping on their homes. You know, they made headlines or not, there are a lot of lost souls. Increased trust makes policing more effective, and it strengthens public safety. The communities, by the way, that want the police more than any other community are the tough, poor communities. Black, white, immigrants. They need the help. They want the help. It's not they don't want it. They want the help. Without that, victims don't call for help. Witnesses don't step forward. Crimes go unsolved. Justice isn't served. I took executive action, which I'm allowed to do as president. I always admired governors can take executive action. But all kidding aside, to make some of these reforms for federal officers, I couldn't do it for state officers. One, no federal officer is allowed to use a chokehold. No federal officer can restricted no-knock warrants. We created a national database for officers who have misbehaved and been held accountable so they can't hide. My plan will help make sure the state and local governments adopt these same reforms. My plan does something else very important. It addresses the opioid epidemic. Notice how many people are dying of opioid overdoses now? And by the way, laced with fentanyl? Attorney General Simga can tell you more about that you never want to know for a fact. For real. He's been such a strong leader on this. But we're going to impose tougher penalties for deadly fentanyl trafficking. That's poisoning communities across this country. This is a key part of the unity agenda I'm announcing that I announced in my State of the Union address. We can do this, we have to do this, we'll make America safer. My plan also takes common sense action to reduce gun violence and violence overall. Builds on the progress we made this summer when I signed into law the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the most significant gun safety law we passed in 30 years. For any one person. Let's be clear. You hear some of my friends in the other team talking about political violence and how it's necessary. Think about this. Did any of you think either as old as I am, you've ever been in an election where we talk about it's appropriate to use force, political violence in America? It's never appropriate. Never, period. Never, never, never. No one should be encouraged to use political violence. None whatsoever. And look, you know, if we're in a situation where, to this day, the MAGA Republicans in Congress defend the mob that stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Defend them. You all saw it. I don't care how frustrated you are. You know, when I showed up, one of the things I learned as president, even though I've been vice president for 8 years, I've done a great deal with the foreign policy administration. I showed up at a meeting of the major democracies called the G7. And I sat down. I was in England. I sat down for this 3-day conference and I said, America's back. And Macron, President of France, turned to me and said, for how long? For how long? They made a discussion, Schmidt, all, just for how long? And one of them said to me, imagine, Joe, if you turned on the television in Washington, D.C., and saw a mob of 1,000 people storming down the hallways of the parliament, breaking down the doors, trying to overturn an outcome of election, and killing several police officers in the meantime. Imagine what you think. Think about what the world saw. I'm always what the world saw. Did you ever think the United States would happen? What I find even more incredible is the defense of it. Cops attacked and assaulted, speared with flagpoles, sprayed with mace, stomped on, dragged, brutalized. Police lost their lives as a result of that day. Police lost their lives. One of the officers said it was worse than anything he had experienced in war in Iraq. So let me say this to my MAGA Republican friends in Congress. Don't tell me you support law enforcement if you won't condemn what happened to us. The side of the police. You can't be pro-law enforcement and pro-insurrection. You can't be a part of law and order. And call people who attack the police on January 6th patriots. You can't do it. What are you teaching our children? It's just that simple. Now it's sickening to see the new attacks on the FBI. Threatening life of law enforcement agents and their families for simply carrying out the law and doing their job. I want to say this as clear as I can. There's no place in this country, no place, for endangering the lives of law enforcement. No place. Responsibility for government, ensuring the safety of our people. Every parent should be able to know when their kid leaves home to go to school or just walk the street, they're going to come home safely. We can do this. We have to do this. We just need to remember who we are. We are the United States of America. When we are united, there is not a single thing we cannot do. Not a single thing. I mean it. what we believe. We the people. That's how our Constitution starts, or the Declaration. We the people. That's who we are. And by the way, no one expects politics to be a patty cake. They sometimes get mean as hell. But the idea you turn on the television and see senior senators and congressmen saying, if such and such happens, there'll be blood in the street. Where the hell are we? Well, that's all I'm looking for. And folks, do me a favor. Presumptuous of me to say that. But think about doing me a favor. Please, please, elect the Attorney General of the Senate. Elect that big old boy to be governor. And by the way, there are a lot of really, and I mean this, I'm not being solicitous. Remember what used to be the criticism of Biden was running? Biden's too bipartisan. Biden has too many Republican friends. There's a lot of Republicans I've worked with for all the years in the Senate. I got a lot done. We respected each other. We disagreed on principle. We never went and had lunch together. Not a joke. What in God's name has happened to that in the United States of America? So folks, let's bring it back.